Pakistan is one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a journalist, especially in the deeply conservative tribal areas bordering Afghanistan, where threats by armed groups have crushed news reporting. The 5 million people who live here have few trustworthy sources of information. They rely on radio because literacy rates are so low, especially among women. I'm Steve Chow. On this edition of 101 East, we meet the brave team daring to bring the news to Pakistan's tribal areas.
Peshawar, the gateway to Pakistan's troubled border with Afghanistan. In Sanskrit, it means the city of men, and this region is renowned for its deeply conservative attitudes. You won't see an uncovered woman on the streets here, and you rarely hear their voices. But there are some exceptions.
Khalida Niaz.
The Tribal News Network, or TNN, is broadcast across Pakistan's tribal areas. For some, this is their only access to local news, and it's often delivered by women. This northwest region of Pakistan has been isolated from the rest of the country by the war against Al-Qaeda and other armed groups. In some areas, like Fatah, the federally administered tribal areas, journalists are banned. They face threats, coercion, and targeted killings. Even in Peshawar, foreign reporters like me need special permission from the government to visit. I've come to meet a friend who's helping reporters to give this region a voice despite the dangers.
Oh my goodness! Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Tayyab Afridi and I met as journalists several years ago. TNN is his dream come to life.
This is a studio.
A radio station that not only brings news to the tribal areas, but also challenges its conservative culture.
So this is the last bulletin that you just put together. This is you. When do you read the next bulletin?
We will start work for next bulletin from after 2 o'clock.
After 2 o'clock.
It's rare to see women work alongside men in this region, but TNN makes sure each bulletin contains a female voice.
The first time I read the news, I was really nervous. Of course, I was on air, but I was really happy. I even used my own name. I didn't think that I should take a fake name, like some women do. It was my own name, my father's name, attached to mine. Khalida Niaz.
Khalida Niaz is TNN's star presenter.
When the people heard me on air, it was very new for them. Where I come from, girls are not usually allowed to get an education. At night, I used to listen to the radio secretly. I didn't have permission. So to be on radio myself and to work here is a dream.
Your voice goes out across one of the most dangerous and difficult areas in the world. Are you ever scared?
No, not about that. I like that my voice is heard across the tribal areas, all the way to Afghanistan. I feel happy that other women hear my voice and know my name. Women wait for my news to be on air. They say they listen to Khalida's news. I like that.
I want you to meet my business partner, Said Nazir.
Hi, Said.
Hi, Ala.
Nice to
Tayyab and managing editor Saeed Nazir discovered pretty quickly that women's voices increased their ratings on radio and online.
There's a kind of contradiction in this region. On one side, they don't allow the women to work as a journalist in the public space and things like this. But on the other side, they love to listen to women's voice. Yeah, so it's a kind of contradiction, it's a tricky thing.
They started an internship program to train and encourage more female reporters, but recruiting is difficult.
We have more than 35 reporters, and 5 of them they are female reporters. But we are struggling with that because this is the first organization that are working on women journalists in the region.
Each day the team meets to review its coverage and decide on stories for the coming days.
Sir, اسمها خلادة Afghan refugees के doctor है.
Shafaq Sabah has worked here for a year while she studies journalism at university. She's produced stories on health and education, but she's now trying to cut her teeth on some harder news. She's had a tip-off about children being drugged by their parents inside an Afghan refugee camp.
Afghan refugees camp के माशुमान उता अफीन वर्कड़े कीगी और आगे दा अफीन माशुमान उता ज़क्का वर्कई दा यो किस्म ला ड्रग दी नो आगे माशुमान उता दा ज़क्का वर्कई चिलका आगे माशुमान दी टूलोरस उदप्राती या आगे दी चिदे आगा मैं दी चिकमी दी आगा दी नतंगे और दी टूलोरस कालीन जोड़ई नो दिस रेडर माशुमान चिकम दी आगा वसरा डिर ज़्यादा कमज़ोरी शो बीमार दी और सब के मडंग शो
दा आगा रिफ्यूजी आगा कम चलता है कमज़ोरी के
It's a dangerous story because the camp is in a restricted area known to hide armed groups.
Whenever we cover a story, there is this one point, a peak point. It has a certain reality to it that makes me think this story is going to be successful. The story that I'm trying to cover right now is the hardest story of my life. To go into an Afghan refugee camp, to talk to women there, to capture their reality, and to bring it into the open.
The editorial team trust her to go ahead.
Further support bakari da iftikharna khaldena ya mata ta mail kawale call kawale.
For most journalists, a green light from the boss would be enough, but Shafaq will also have to win permission at home.
My family don't support me doing so-called hard news at all. They say you're a woman, so stay away from these things. Who will take the responsibility for your security? They might try to stop me, but I think I can convince them, at least to let me touch on this story. Even though they keep saying if I don't listen to them, one day I'll die in the process.
But the risks involved for women reporters are no laughing matter. For newsreader Khalida, even coming to and from work each day is fraught. Her village is a 2-hour commute from the office, and she often leaves work after dark.
This is the most difficult part of my job, to go on local transport to and from work. It's very difficult. This is the biggest obstacle. I get really tired with all this. I get home late. My stepmother gets really upset with me, and I get into trouble because of it. It doesn't matter how bold and brave I try to be. I'm still just a girl. If someone does anything to me, my entire life's work will go to waste.
Eyes follow her wherever she goes. It's a journey that a lot of women here wouldn't risk for the sake of a job. Only 25% of Pakistani women are in the workforce versus 86% of men. That makes it the second worst place in the world for gender disparity, according to the World Economic Forum. Khalida lives east of Peshawar, near the Kabul River.
This is my home. We have a joint family system, so we all live together. It feels really good to live together with everyone. There is strength in unity. This portion is ours. We live here. This is my father and my stepmother.
Khalida has always been headstrong.
I started a hunger strike in high school to convince my father to let me finish my education and allow me to go to college. My dad wished for me to finish school, but we had such bad financial problems that he couldn't afford it. So I didn't eat for 2 days. Then my dad decided to help me and let me be admitted. When I went to college, I worked so hard that I finished top in my first year and my second year. Then my dad knew, wow, she really wants to achieve something.
Before Khalida got her education, no one in this village knew much of outside events. No one could understand the news. It was just in English and Urdu. But because news is in Pashto, everyone can understand it. And now people pay attention.
Khalida is now the main breadwinner in her family, which has encouraged other parents to let their girls go to school.
Now a lot of girls have gotten permission to be educated after they have seen Khalida. In the village, I don't think there's any home now that prevents their daughters from studying.
Parents have come to trust their daughters now. They think that daughters can achieve something after seeing what I've done, I think. And that makes me happy. When I look at those girls, it makes me happy. Somewhere in them, I can see my own success.
Success as a journalist is not easy for anyone in this region, especially outside Peshawar, in the federally administered tribal areas.
Actually, this is a very traditional male-dominant society. So all the markets and bazaars, they are made for men. The women, if they come out from their houses, they have to cover their faces.
زمونږ په معاشره کې اکثره خلک د زامنو په پیدایش خو خوشحالیانې منځي ولې د لور پیدایش باندې نه صرف خفګان کوي بلکې زیاتې لوڼه زیږونکې زنانه ته هم په ښه نظر نشي کتلی آیا د لوڼو پیدایش د زنانه قصور دی په دې اړه رپورټ راکوي تهمینه سید
In an area that's central to the government's struggle with the Taliban, reports like this can be more controversial than covering conflict.
ډاکټر حفیظ الله سره د خبرو په وخت دوی وویل چې د میډیکل یا ساينس په علوم کې د لور زوی پیدایش یا بالکل نه پیدا کېدل یو فطري عمل دی او دا چې د لور په پیدایش د خفګان او مایوسي رواج په نن سبا دور کې
Many people here don't own TVs and can't read newspapers. TNN's 7-minute bulletins are the only local news they get. But the network must tread a fine line, balancing its reporting so that it doesn't run foul of the military or armed groups.
We have to be extra vigilant, we have to be extra careful while dealing with sensitive issues. You should be neutral, extremely neutral in this region. You should not have inclination to any group, any government, Taliban or local groups.
Money is also a problem. The network depends on foreign donors, which raise suspicion around here, and grants are difficult to get. When funds ran out last year, the staff agreed to work for free.
We ran out of funds for 4 months, and everyone in the staff, everyone contributed voluntarily for 4 months.
They didn't get paid?
They didn't get paid. So our staff is very committed to this cause.
For Saeed, that cause is personal.
I think myself as a rebel, and it starts from my childhood. My father didn't want me to get education, but I did it.
At home, Saeed is determined to make sure all his children, including his daughters, are educated.
Living on the male They don't pay any attention to girls' education, to girls' empowerment. They are secondary citizens because they're not equal. They're not seen as equal citizens, the male and female in tribal areas. And we are struggling with it.
But it's not easy, even for men, to advocate for women in tribal society.
I want my wife to be filmed in this documentary, but I can't do it because there's a lot of pressure from my tribe, from my family. They would not allow me. So this is a kind of pressure. But I would like to see my daughters do whatever they want. They should be freed and there should be no restrictions on my daughters, and they should enjoy their life.
If anything is to change for women, it will take more men like Saeed who are willing to change first. Across town, Shafak is hoping that her father will accept that change. She's about to ask permission to cover her story about children being drugged in an Afghan refugee camp. Most people here live with extended families, so private discussions like this one are rare.
Whenever I'm about to do a story and it comes to asking permission from my father, sometimes both my mother and father say no. This work sounds difficult, you're a girl, how will you do it? What will the rest of the family think? What will your uncles say?
Shafak makes her case to go to the refugee camp.
Since we belong to the media, we should highlight this and bring it to people's attention. The lives of many children can be saved.
This kind of journalism is very tough. There are a lot of problems with it. A lot of people are after journalists. There is danger everywhere. Trust me.
But it looks like she's won him over.
That is in a very difficult place. That area is not good. But she has asked me, so I have said, yes, go ahead, do it. I'll pray for you.
Not only does Shafak's father have to give his permission, he must defend her against other relatives if they oppose her covering the story.
Actually, she has a brother who is also very strict. He also says, don't do this, don't do that.
At the start, when we used to talk, I would massage his feet before bringing up a subject like this. Without my father's support, I have nothing. The incredible support that I get from him. I think if he wasn't here, what would I be? I am nothing without him.
She is very dear to me. I'm willing to do anything for her. I'm grateful that I have 5 daughters. More than the sons, I've tried to make my daughters happy. Her happiness is my happiness.
Shafak has an ally in her father, but after she graduates from her journalism degree, she'll be expected to marry. And any future career will depend on whether her husband allows her to work. But for now, she's focused on getting into the refugee camp and telling the most difficult story she's faced.
Right now we're headed to the refugee camp, where I will work on the story.
1.5 million Afghan refugees live in Pakistan's tribal areas after fleeing fighting across the border. The camps are volatile. Authorities believe Taliban and other armed groups hide among the refugees. But Shafak is focused on her goal.
The best thing about my job is that women's issues are highlighted, which are otherwise completely sidelined by this society. When I report, I bring things to the media's attention. Then I feel that I have met my responsibility to a great extent. When I do this work, I get a lot of satisfaction.
From the outskirts of the camp, Shafak will continue her mission alone. Having me and a television camera in tow is too much of a security risk.
This is where we have to leave you. Good luck with your story.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye.
The longer I stay, the greater the risk that someone will get suspicious about the purpose of Shafak's visit.
Okay, let's go to a safer place.
I can clearly see how difficult it is for Shafak to be a reporter here, and the boundaries she has to push.
Even if I could go with her, people probably wouldn't speak to me. As a woman here, especially a foreigner, you can feel the gaze of others. People are starting to point me out, even sitting in the car. That's why these women are really the only ones who can tell these stories.
Once inside the camp, Shafak takes another risk and asks someone to film her interviews on my mobile phone. It takes her a while to convince a group of women who weave carpets to speak about why they give drugs to their children.
کوم چې زموږ ماشومان دي نو دا منګه په داسې طریقه سره ساتو کنه چې نشه ورکو تپیم هغه ورکو په هغه طریقه باندې ماشومان موږ غلي کو به منګه خپل کار ساتو جاري نو اوس نه موږ ته ورکو کو به دی غشي بیا موږ ته نه ورکو او موږ خو کار کوو کنه کور کې خال نه جوړو نو پیسې چې نه ګټو بیا به څنګه جون تیریږي.
How did it go?
We returned to pick up Shafak.
Did you get the story? Yeah. Difficult? Okay. Let's head back to the office.
Back at TNN, the deadline for the bulletin is fast approaching. Shafak is busy editing her story and cross-checking facts. She's also spoken to a child who was drugged.
What do you think the reaction will be to your story?
After this, I want all these women to be aware, to stop giving drugs to their kids. That's why I'm doing the story.
पेखावर کې د افغان مهاجرینو خراسان کیمپ کې میندې خپل ماشومانو ته په خپل د فیم نشه ورکوي.
On air, Shafak uses the name Saba Bangash.
د راپورټ راکوي سبا بنگش.
نو ما مور به خانانو کار کولو هلته به زما مور به کار راته ماته وې یو وړوکې غونه کې بوتل لري نشه هغه به راکولو وپیم زه به سودومه.
کیمپ کې قالین جوړولو کې مصروفه رحیمه د چا عمر چې د 13 نه تر 15 کالو په منځ کې ښکاریږي وخت په وخت افیم ورکوي چې دوی او د پراتوي او دا قالین جوړولو لا اوسګاروي.
کوم چې زموږ ماشومان دي نو دا منګه په داسې طریقه سره ساتو کنه چې نشه ورکو افیم هغه ورکو په هغه طریقه باندې ماشومان موږ غلي کو به منګه خپل کار ساتو جاري.
بل اړخته لیډي ریډینګ هسپتال کې د ماشومانو ډاکټر یاسر وای چې افیم په ظاهره توګه خو صرف ماشومانو ته خوب ورولي ولې په پټه یې بدن ته ډېر نقصان رسوي. سبا بنگش TNN پیښور.
Are you happy with it?
I'm so happy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
ये स्टोरी जो है ये बिल्कुल
Because the story is completely fresh and new. No one has ever covered this before. I'm the first one.
So that's why I'm so happy.
Before the day is over, there's another moment of triumph for Shafak.
Mommy's a pass.
She's just heard from her university that she's passed her master's degree in journalism.
अमी तो चढ़ते जब चीज़ तो tight hug दरकम.
Her colleagues congratulate and joke with her.
धीरे धीरे मेरे 690
Like many women in this part of Pakistan, she's fought every step of the way. Her success is a victory in a personal battle that shows others what's possible. Her voice, these voices broadcast across the land, are the most powerful agents for change.